CASAT Podcast Network.
Welcome to Season 2 of CASAT Conversations. I am your host, Heather Haslam. This season, we will explore the timely and complex topic of resilience for healthcare providers. Within each conversation, you will hear from experts, clinicians, and providers who will explore and share the latest research, best practices, and applications for how to be resilient. Please enjoy today's conversation. We are excited to welcome Kendall Holcomb and Lara from the Nevada Resilience Project. Kendall is a public information officer who is passionate about sharing people's stories and information with the community to help shine a light on mental health and substance use programs for the state of Nevada. Diana is passionate about giving back to her community by assisting families and individuals during the pandemic through her role as a resilience ambassador. Welcome. We are happy to have you both here to share about this important work happening within the state of Nevada.
Hi, Heather. Thank you.
So as we get started, Kendall, can you tell us about the Nevada Resilience Project and how it came to be?
Yeah, of course. So the Nevada Resilience Project was launched last year in 2020 in response to COVID-19. Specifically to help individuals or families who were experiencing stress, anxiety, in response to the pandemic. We came about in part because of grant funding from FEMA and SAMHSA, because we recognized that the mental health impacts of COVID were just having such a huge, again, impact on our state and on Nevadans. We actually had pulled data from what's called the CDC's Mental Health Pulse Survey, which looks at how people have indications of anxiety or depression, and we kind of compared those numbers with current statistics to, previously before COVID had hit. And in Nevada, we saw an increase of people saying that they were having these symptoms of anxiety and or depression increase 3 to 4-fold. And it really hasn't, unfortunately, gone down a lot. I actually had just pulled the info right before this meeting just to kind of see where we're at. And Nevada consistently is ranking in the highest or top 10 states across the country with those symptoms. So obviously that's really unfortunate, and the Nevada Resilience Project came about in a response to address that. So our ambassadors like Diana are there to help build coping strategies. They can help people find local resources. We assist with job loss, housing insecurities, isolation, people who might be having issues accessing their care. And our program specifically is of no cost, and all of our participant information is confidential. If we do a warm handoff with providers or additional resources in the community, obviously that's up in the air in terms of your insurance, but our program, our staff are available for free.
That we are in the top 10 at least, and that so many Nevadans are experiencing anxiety and depression. And then the impacts of that on our communities. So thank you for the work that you guys do in the Nevada Resilience Project to help support people who are struggling in the state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Diana, what has been one of the most impactful moments for you since becoming a resilience ambassador?
Hi, Heather. Well, first of all, thanks for having Kendall and I here today. I've had so many impactful moments, and they're all unique and different. But one that really kind of stuck with me was this gal that I had reached out to. She was a senior, and she also had a disability, and she was going through a lot of stress. And a lot of Nevadans, I'm sure, especially within Washoe County, I'm sure can relate to her situation. And in her case, she was renting a home that was going to be put up for sale. And so she was having a hard time finding housing, affordable housing, because she was, on disability. So she was on a very limited income. And so, she had spent all this money on application fees, just to be, rejected after rejection. She also had 2 little dogs. So a lot of places weren't accepting her application. She didn't have the best of credit. So there was just a lot going on with this poor gal. But, we were able to come up with the plan and address her most stressful, situation, things that are happening in her life. And obviously housing was one of them. And so we were able to eventually, after a lot of work, find her a new home to live in with her 2 dogs. Because a lot of the places were telling her, hey, you're going to have to get rid of, one of your dogs. Unfortunately, you can't have 2 dogs here. And she was like, she put her foot down. She's like, Diana, I am not leaving any of my animals behind. So we found the perfect place for her, in addition to, finding her other services. Like I mentioned, she had a disability, so she needed help getting, from point A to point B. We were able to find help as far as moving assistance. She was also stressing on not being able to find people to help her to move. But we were able to, check all that off her list. And, we actually became really good, had a really good connection. And even to this day, we still chat. She has dachshunds and I have dachshunds. So we, off the bat just kind of clicked. And we'll just send each other pictures and little reminders, like, hey, I hope you're having a good day. But one day she reached out to me and I'll never forget because we both, it was just very touching. We both started crying. And but she reached out to me and she said, Diana, I just wanted to let you know that before you reached out to me, I was ready to just give up. I had no hope of, being able to find housing, know where to start, know what resources are available. And just being that person that I can come to vent and address my concerns. And so she was very, very grateful. And it's just so rewarding to just get that feedback from the community. But like I said, even to this day, we still check up on each other to see how we're doing. And yeah, it's so rewarding.
Oh, that's so cool. And her story really highlights all of the different dimensions of resilience that we've been exploring throughout this season. The importance of connection. So that connection between you as a resilience ambassador and this woman. And then also the importance of being connected to resources. And it sounds like you and your team, a lot of the work that you do is getting people connected to resources to support them in times of challenges in their life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these individuals that I'll talk to sometimes aren't even aware of the resources that are available. This gal in particular, she wasn't even aware of like the senior services that are provided to our community. And so, like I said, there's so many people that just don't know what help is out there. And I think educating the community is a big part of our job as well.
In this season, we learned about a term called vicarious resilience. And so getting to experience other people's stories of resilience. And so what is that like for you to be able to witness and walk with people through their own journey?
Oh, it's great. I mean, that's, while you're talking to a lot of these individuals, a lot of their stories, you can also relate, to a lot of what they've gone through. And it almost, normalizes it to a sense, like she was expressing all sorts of, feelings towards just life in general. And, I can relate to her and be like, yeah, last week I had, really, really crummy day. And, this is the feelings I had. And, you're not alone. Trust me. It's, and so it's great at giving those people that sense of like, empathizing, and reflect on, certain situations. It's a great feeling.
That's awesome. It sounds like it also highlights the importance of seeing that other humans are going through challenging situations and then having that connection piece.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you support your own resilience as an ambassador?
Well, anytime that I find myself where I encounter, certain challenges or just stressful times, there's a couple things that I like to, go off of that have worked for me in the past. And I know everybody kind of has their own ways of, dealing with things, but I find that personal value is a big one. It's so important to give yourself credit from, just how far you've come, what you've accomplished. Just be kind to yourself. I wanted to share a little story, a little information on my personal story. I recently graduated college, and I'm close to being, 30 years old. And I was always so hard on myself, thinking, God, you're almost 30 and you're just not going to graduate college. And, I had friends that stuck to their 4-year plan, then they were done. And it took me a little longer. But I think it's important to kind of take a step back and just really look at, the entire picture, and give yourself that credit. I was able to purchase a home. I was able to pay off my first car. I was able to, travel and, meet so many new people and have that experience, and although I didn't graduate within the 4 years, I kind of gave myself credit for what I have done thus far. So I think that's a big one, is giving, your value to yourself, to what you've done. Also, I think it's important to acknowledge your strengths. Many times when we find ourselves down or going through a hardship, it's important to look back and look at your strengths. What has helped you in the past overcome a hardship? And I think that recognizing those strengths will make you more effective. It makes you feel more confident, authentic, and also invest time and energy on your strengths rather than your weaknesses. I find that it's, I'm really good about recognizing when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, upset, fatigued, or sad, and addressing those needs in order to make, make you feel both mentally and physically happy. And sometimes I remember taking a class my first year of college, and it was about wellness and personal health. And we made a list of strengths that we find in ourselves. And it helped me to think of things that you do well and that you love doing. Anything that you do and makes you feel more energized. Things that make you feel like you fulfilled a goal. And things that, evokes notice or praise from others. I also think that it's important to set short and long-term goals. I think that goal setting, it gives us something to look forward to. It keeps us motivated. And, some of these short-term goals can be something simple like getting up early or going to bed early, taking a bath, exercise, wake up in the morning and, go walk your dog around the block, watch a sunset, watch a sunrise. So it can be, just little things that kind of keep us motivated throughout the day. And I also wanted to mention wellness and self-care. And that's something that we practice so much as ambassadors, because we're serving the community. And a lot of the times, you hear stories that, can be pretty stressful. You have to listen to the struggles that communities are going through. And at times you do find yourself, feeling a little down, listening to these stories. It can be sad or it can make you angry. But practicing self-care it's just so important to take care of ourselves. And I did this wellness calendar one time with this gal that I spoke to, and it was actually a lot of fun. So, and you can create a week of wellness, or you can do your whole month. But essentially what we did is we went through that month's calendar, and for each day we would do a little activity. So on day 1, you're going to do a deep breathing exercise. On day 2, you can catch up with a friend. Just schedule something fun or that you enjoy doing. Like I said, just set little mini goals, schedule a game night. I think it's just important to keep ourselves motivated daily.
Thanks, Diana. It sounds like you really enjoy sharing these practices with the people that you serve as well, that you truly are walking along with people who are experiencing challenges and modeling taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, as public health, advocates, we forget to do it for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, it's important to take care of our well-being in order to keep giving back to our community.
Absolutely. Kendall, what are you seeing as the biggest needs within the state right now?
Yeah, so it kind of ebbs and flows, really depending on the situation that's going on. Pretty consistently throughout the program, we've seen a lot of housing needs. And like Diana said, that was, the experience that she and the woman that she's worked with really touched on. And it's something that we just, it's really hitting people really hard is the housing. And, I think part of that stemmed from the fact that we had essentially our whole state shut down and people weren't working, and filing for unemployment was difficult and a long process. And, we had that coverage from a little while with the rental assistance, but obviously funding only lasts for so long. And, it's been a really difficult, that's been a really difficult one is the housing assistance, and one that we really see pretty commonly. A couple of weeks back with the Caldor fire, when that was going on, we had a really big outreach, and Diana was actually part of a group that we did down in Carson City, where people who were evacuating their homes and evacuating their town of, South Lake or Kings Beach or wherever they were, and coming over the hill and not knowing, what to do, where to go. They have pets. They had to leave everything behind, which is a very traumatic experience, and not know if they're going to be able to go back to that. We dealt with that. We dealt with that last fire season as well, specifically within Mono County, and worked with them. And then we also do see stuff with our youth. Unfortunately, we do see an increase in suicides within our youth, which is just obviously absolutely heartbreaking. And we don't really, because of COVID and because of schools being closed for a while, and people who are in homes where it's maybe not a comfortable place, or they don't have that support system with their friends or their teachers, that was something that we really were seeing, and we still see a little bit of, and we've done campaigns to address that, that I think have been really successful, but we still see that too. And so I think what I've taken away from that is there are so many people who are having these experiences and having these concerns and these frustrations and these issues that a lot of other people are having. And so I think that really is, for our program, what made us realize we need to continue. And so when our grant with FEMA and SAMHSA ended, we were able to secure additional funding because we realized, and luckily our state leadership realized, this is needed, and there are still people who need help and need access to resources, because like, I know for me, when I go online and you Google, like, mental health care in your community, you're going to get such a huge list of things, and they may work for you, they may not work for you, and that can be overwhelming. And so I think having people like Diana and our other ambassadors who know the resources in the community because they work in the community that they live in, they can say, okay, yeah, if you need housing assistance, I know who you need to talk to, and I will walk you through it. And, you know, if you need help filing for unemployment, I can walk you through that. And I think that's just been really successful.
That's so awesome that, that the state leadership really has supported this effort we're not post-COVID, but as we continue to move through COVID, and that really normalizing that things continue to happen, right? Natural disasters, people continue to struggle with mental health, with anxiety and depression, and that there is a real need here within our state to be able to connect people with resources and to not feel so isolated, and to feel like there is someone there who cares. And that sounds like that's what the Resilience Ambassadors are there for.
It very much is. And we have, with our program, we have our 3 key pillars, which are promotion, prevention, and early intervention. And that's really what we focus on and what we try to help people with. And personally, and I know Diana and I have talked about this, and I've talked about this with other people in our program, there's this mentality that reaching out for mental health services, there's a stigma behind that, which is absolutely heartbreaking, because clearly the numbers show that there's a need and people are feeling these feelings. And so I always tell people, and because, you know, we've all dealt with it. I've dealt with stuff as we go through COVID. I'm sure everybody listening has, and it's like, it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to ask for help, because there are these resources, and we have people like Diana who are here and who can help you. And we want to share that as the best we can, because we can only get better by reaching out and by talking with each other.
What are some of the prevention strategies that the Nevada Resilience Project uses, since that's one of the pillars?
Diana, do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. When it comes to prevention, the situation that I met, the gal that I talked about earlier, in her case, we were able to prevent her from becoming homeless because it was getting down to the point where she had nowhere to go. She had no one to turn to. And so we were able to prevent her from becoming homeless. And in addition, being able to connect her with the senior services that were available, or the disability resources that were available, it prevented her from her health worsening. And as a public health major, we all know that prevention measures are more cost effective, to our state, and not just cost effective, but also, it's for their well-being. It's so important. And like I said, there's different cases that I've encountered, but the housing right now in our community, it's a crisis. These people can't afford these crazy rent prices, and on top of that, they can't find housing. So I think preventing individuals from homelessness is a big one right now within our community.
Yeah, and I'm struck by the need for multiple organizations to come together, because it's really a huge issue in our community. It's a systems issue, and so what needs to happen. And as a resilience ambassador, supporting these people who you're seeing having challenges on a daily basis, but then you're working in a system that doesn't always allow you to fix those challenges. What do you do in those situations where you actually can't support in some way?
A lot of a lot of the services, I think they're just overwhelmed. Sometimes they're overwhelmed, and they have application after application after application. But that's where, as an ambassador, you try to find other nonprofits that may be able to help. And unfortunately, a lot of these nonprofits may not have the same amount of funding as, federal programs. But I think it comes down to just coming up with a new plan. We'll find other nonprofits that may be able to help you with, your food needs, or, it takes a community, like you mentioned. So you start reaching out to different, organizations, nonprofits within the community. And, if one can't help, then you move on to the next, or, they all come together to kind of just help this individual. Because there's so many passionate people out there in our community that I've worked with, and they're willing to go above and beyond, to help these people in need.
Well, it sounds like there's also a lot of problem solving that has to happen.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
We have to get creative sometimes, definitely. But we have partnered with some great providers, and we have just generally, like Diana was saying, there are great nonprofits and there are great resources. And sometimes it's just finding the right fit for the individual.
I love that. And it really highlights that is what resilience is. There's a lot of creativity involved. There's a lot of problem solving, and it's that connection. We need that connection with others and our community. How can our listeners learn more about the Nevada Resilience Project?
Sure. So we have a website, nevadaresilienceproject.com. It's the name of the program. And we have a ton of information on there. So not only do we talk about the background of our program and where it stemmed from, we have links to motivational blog posts. We have kind of a breakdown of what is resilience. We offer what we call a resilience toolkit, where it is resources and activities to help you build your resilience personally and within your family. And we actually break that down by demographics. So there's a segment on emotional health, there's a segment on physical health, we have teens and young adults, we have parent resources, first responders, and then we also include mindfulness practices and activities. We do also include links to all of the other behavioral health resources across the state, and that is also broken out by demographics. So we've got mobile crisis support services, peer support lines, our veterans, the certified community behavioral health centers in your area. We packaged a lot of information into our website, and then on every single page that you go to, you'll also see a button where you can connect with one of our ambassadors. And it's a form that you fill out. You do not have to share personal information if you don't want to. You can just include your first name and a zip code, and what you're reaching out for. And we do ask for the zip code just so we can connect you with an ambassador in your community. So somebody in Washoe County can say, hey, I'm looking for employment assistance, and they're gonna get somebody like Dana in Washoe County as opposed to one of our ambassadors in Clark, because we want our people to focus on the community that they operate within. And that's monitored by myself, actually, and another supervisor all day, all the time. and we share that information with our staff. And then also our staff works with our providers directly. So Boys and Girls Club will connect us with youth, Health and Human Services, health districts. So we are out there, but easiest is nevadaresilienceproject.com.
That's wonderful. We'll make sure that gets into the show notes so that people can utilize this wonderful resource that you all have created for the state of Nevada. So thank you both for your time, and really just thank you so much for all the work that you do supporting Nevadans.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to CASAT Conversations, your resource for exploring behavioral health topics. We hope you found today's conversation timely and meaningful. Please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. If you want to learn more, visit us at our blog at CASATOnDemand.org.
CASAT Podcast Network. This podcast has been brought to you by the CASAT Podcast Network, located within the Center for the Application of Substance Abuse Technologies at the University of Nevada, Reno. For more podcasts, information, and resources, visit CASAT.org.